no sex drive and felt pretty apathetic towards doing anything sexual. I thought about going to a doctor, but I didn't. Anyways, I took matters into my own hands, pun always intended, and started forcing myself to masturbate to whatever I could. I guess I was trying to see if I could strike some desire for anything. I tried doing it to randoms, sometimes friends, and once masturbated myself with a soft sculpture I had made. Nothing. My only refuse was porn. Surely that would work. Nope. Every time I tried masturbating to porn, I felt sick or would start crying. It's such a bizarre and brutal perversion of what real sex is, and I think I was damaging myself. Maybe on purpose. I kind of gave up and decided to be non-sexual for a bit. I didn't touch myself for quite some time until one night I was driving my giant white SUV, and all of a sudden, like a wall collapsing, I unzipped and started aggressively masturbating. This wasn't passive or forced. I really wanted to do it. I even drove past my house and circled around to have more time. I was about half a mile out when my driver's side rear tire exploded. I kept masturbating. My dead tire dragged on the road. Sparks shot out too. All this to say, I came in my hands as I turned into my driveway. I masturbate pretty regularly. I know a lot of people don't, and some people judge me, but I guess different strokes for different folks, and I don't really care. I think it's one of the healthiest things to do. I guess I don't think about anything specific when I do it. Sometimes I watch porn, but mostly not. Sometimes I think about specific people, but most of the time I just concentrate on the feeling. One of my favorite places is in the shower, laying down with the hot faucet running between my open legs. One time, I was visiting two friends out of town. One of them was at work, and the other was chilling with me at their place, just watching TV. I was sitting on the couch covered in a blanket, and him on a chair. I don't remember what we were watching. It was probably Hoarders, honestly, or one of those shows on TLC. I certainly wasn't paying attention, though, because I was masturbating, testing to see how secretive I could be about it. It worked out. The first time I tried watching The Shining was like a year ago. I had it playing on Netflix on my laptop in bed. Watching it wasn't what made me horny in the first place. I just happened to be watching it around a time. I was just feeling it. And I didn't get very far into the movie before I switched tabs and masturbated. I fell asleep trying to continue the movie after that. The same sequence of events happened 3 nights in a row. Just me attempting to watch this movie everyone tells me about in quotes. Then I end up pausing to masturbate and I fall asleep trying to finish the movie. I thought it was pretty weird, and maybe I was subconsciously associating The Shining with masturbating after the first time. But hey, it is what it is. One time, I found an Amazon gift card on my bedroom floor and decided to order a vibrator. My friend had just bought a nice one that was battery powered, and so I bought one that was similar but rechargeable, thinking it would be better. Then I lost the charger. A charger very specific to this vibrator. It won't take any adapters I already have on hand laying around. So I have a dead vibrator that I have to deal with. I think I've associated masturbation with shame throughout my entire life. From when I was a little kid just discovering the pleasure it could bring, to when it was both an escape from and an indication of a failing marriage in my 50s. I've always masturbated alone, the only exception being an experiment with phone sex a couple of years ago. So in my experience, it is deeply personal and intimate. I I think if I had been able to talk about it with my wife, we may have had a healthier relationship. But I think that holds true for my entire life. So as a young kid, I would have had a healthier sex life if I did not feel I had to keep this particular experience under wraps. A dimension contributing to the shame is that I objectify women when I masturbate. Sure, heterosexuals' fantasies will do that by definition. Usually the object of the fantasy is a specific person, even someone I know on occasion, or a former lover. Rarely is it some abstract idea or situation that gets me going. I would never be able to go up to a woman and say, "Hey, I masturbated about you last night." I suspect if I were able to be more honest, expressive, transparent about this particular sex act, I would have less shame about it. Currently, I haven't masturbated in 7 days. I never thought I'd say this, but I don't remember what turns me on. The Johnny-come-lately authority figure fantasy isn't working. I thought, when do I remember being turned on? When I was in the 3rd grade, I had this friend. Bumbling in the cafeteria line, she was turned, facing me. She was telling me a story about what an older boy had done to her. I don't remember the details leading up to the point of contact, but the memory of the awakening of pleasure I felt that day gives me a fiercely hard clit just thinking about it. How can you expect what you have never known? She's saying words like, "He did this," and she held out both of her hands and slid them slowly into the right and left pockets, respectively, of my overalls. Down from the sides of my mid-trunk, down along each ribeye beside my navel, closer together, down the front of my long torsoed pelvis, down her tiny fingertips slipping all the way down to where the seams meet, smoothing out the crumpled pocket to its maximum unfurlment. In that moment, it was as if a flock of birds rushed through my meridian, and the I that was a little girl was lost, absorbed and dispersed into the beating wings of the sensual. I formed the words, "Wait, what did he do?" And she mercifully did it again. The second was not like the first, though. Not like the first because I was wedded now. I had a taste. Now I wanted a bite. A close childhood friend was in the bathtub with me. We had been talking about masturbation a lot, but hadn't figured it out. We were comparing notes about sex. We were wondering what sex feels like, what different kinds of things on the bottom feel like. An amazing new thought occurred to me, and I said, I wonder what it feels like when someone licks my bottom. However obvious in selfishness, she volunteered quickly. Pushing up on my toes, I spread my legs wide and tucked my pelvis, so my genitals and butt were above the water. Smiling, she looked at it and opened her mouth. Her tongue was flat and she lunged, licking me from anus to the top of my clitoris. "How did it feel?" she asks, smiling so big. It felt good. Later, we were in her room. I showed her how I humped the edge of the mattress, gently, with clothes on, just brushing the whole of the genitals outside my body. She tries it for a minute. We are both laughing and smiling. She walks on her bed, leaps to the other bed where all her dolls and stuffed animals are. She says what she does is more complex. First, you find a small stuffed animal, preferably with weird shapes and glass eyes. No wire whiskers. Beanie Babies are a good size. Then you get one of your big stuffed animals, one of your deadliest oversized toys, like the one you win at the fair. Something with a little weight to it. Now, lay on your back and spread your legs. Take the small stuffed animal and put it in your panties, right up against your genitals. Then pull the big stuffed animal on top of you and wrap your legs around it. Well, when she did this, she must have came, gloriously, instantly, bearing down. Her face seemed to be pressing in on itself. She was looking at me, but not seeing, bucking in a measuredly slow, rhythmic way. When I masturbate, the only way I can come is laying on my stomach. So lately, I've been trying to prolong the process by not turning onto my stomach right away. Also, trying to keep the vibration setting low. I think about my partner often, and specifically about being penetrated from behind, even though I can never actually come in that position during real sex. Sometimes I also pretend I'm not allowed to move at all. So, I do masturbate often. Sometimes it's because I'm feeling turned on and just want to, and other times I just want to fall asleep easy. Sometimes I think about myself being in some kind of sexual therapy, where there's some kind of professional doctor type who says, "All right now, the goal is for you to orgasm, for the therapy to work, so just relax," and then I just go with it. If something else comes into my mind, I usually just go with that, such as sex with a woman and a man, sex with a group, sex in which I'm invited into an office to sit in an older man's lap. I like to think about the scene from the book White Oleander, where the young girl is invited up to the construction site where the older man works. He pulls down her overalls and then her underwear and feels her, and she, who is me, falls into orgasm. I think about going to the bondage club and being put up on this platform I saw there, with my hands tied up over my head and my eyes blindfolded, and everyone that comes by can touch me and I don't know who they are. I always come. And after, I'm glad I'm alone and not really in those situations. I would think masturbation fantasies are generally something that are kept private, but there's something really erotic about sharing them with a stranger for a project like this on a completely anonymous basis that I frankly find quite thrilling and do not mind doing. I am a mid-50s aged male, happily married, and don't mind confessing that I still enjoy masturbation. My fantasies have changed a little through the years, but in many respects they are still quite similar to my very first ones. I began masturbating when I was 12 and enjoyed thoughts of peeking up the skirts of my female classmates, which I found to be quite arousing. Of course, there was always one or two who would catch me looking and let me have a better glimpse. Those glimpses always made for especially good fodder for my imagination. I also enjoyed thought of those same classmates of mine doing to themselves what I was doing to me. When I was in college, my girlfriend's roommate walked in on me while I was masturbating once. That's a whole different story, but if you want details on it, all you have to do is ask. That was really the first time I was watched. While I found it to be pretty embarrassing at first, the more I thought about it, the more turned on by being surprised like that I found I really was. I guess you can call me a pervy old man, but even to this day, when I'm out in public and see a pretty woman, I will mentally undress her. I like to try and guess what kind of panties she might be wearing, and if she is shaved or natural. Those little visions sometimes make good fantasies for later on. Currently, my fantasies sometimes involve past things I've done, or thinking about my past experiences that may have turned out differently. Most of my fantasies today, though, still revolve around both watching and being watched. I've had a couple opportunities to put on masturbatory shows for women who wanted to watch, and have found them to be really erotic. I would be more than happy to discuss my fantasies in further detail if you wish. Masturbating takes 2 hands. One for my dick, the other for my iPhone. I used to look at photos, now it's videos. At night, I have to turn the brightness down. Am I even present in this? A friend of mine recently told me that she felt sex was the last bit of wilderness we have left. I wondered where that left masturbation, my own hands. If sex is the last place that the outside, capital T, capital O, can't quite touch, a true wilderness, then I feel I have let it in dangerously close. I don't like when the cameras are too sharp, or when the lighting is too nice, or when the couches look expensive. When the bodies are too good, but also, sometimes I do like that. I don't like it when the people look like they're doing it for money, but also, sometimes I do like that too. I like it when they remind me of someone I know, or someone I don't. Sometimes I'm inspired by the haircuts, or the vulnerability, or the absence of humanity, the presence of the facade. There was a video once that I saved of 2 people fucking, and they looked like they loved each other and hated each other at the same time. A willingness to be both. It was a home video. In the back of the frame there was a bookshelf, their entire DVD collection on display, rows and rows of movies. If I studied it, I could really get to know them, their tastes, their interests, how they spend their time. On the top shelf, and I'm not kidding, were at least 50 plush Angry Bird toys. It was here where I felt I knew these people, not by tracing their exposed bodies covered with skin and sweat, but through this display, which I imagined them hiding under a sheet when their closest friends visited. I felt like I'd gotten too close. I had gotten too close. Did they mean for this video to make it online? Last week, on a hike, I fell down and scratched up my right hand. I'm right-handed. I tried to jerk off with my left hand, but it felt awkward, like when you're kissing someone who's bad at kissing and you can't quite surrender. Can't even pretend by shutting your eyes, not even with beer. So I tried again with my right hand, holding myself so that the fresh wounds didn't touch, using my left hand to angle my dick in a way that reduced the contact. And after a while, I managed to get off. It took focus, 2 hands, no phone, no capital O outside. Sometimes the scrapes met my dick and I'd wince at the pressure. If you didn't know I was cut up, you'd think it just felt good. Was this part of the wilderness? I like watching black men on Asian or white or Hispanic women. I also like watching lesbian porn. As far as my thought process, I don't know. But nothing is hotter than a big black man doing a little Asian or white girl. I like when you appear. You're not a fantasy. I know you in waking life. But I like when I see you here, especially in the sunlight, as you often find me, here and there. I lean back, watch my chest rise and fall. I'll trace you down my hips and push my fingers deep. I imagine you licking me all up till I'm dripping wet and cannot wait much longer. I like when you fill me up, pushing yourself deep, fingers tracing my lips. Push them inside so I can suck and moan while I sway my hips, rise and fall. Maybe I'll let you push them really deep, pull them out slow, make my lips get stuck, sloppy. Make me hold on, all filled up, and suck and moan, dripping, rise and fall. Masturbation allows for total control. Sometimes mid-fantasy you may switch it all up. I like that. Flip me over now. Fuck me from behind. Grab my hair. Call me your little fucking slut. Tell me how you like it. Pull my fucking hair. I like it. I like that. It feels good. Please, baby, please. We aren't supposed to talk about it, and you certainly are not supposed to see it. Me exposed, vulnerable, but desirous of your thoughts and feelings. My erection without mental chaos and preconceived notions. We aren't free, yet I imagine the freedom of peaceful mind and erotic position. And you watching me. Are you curious, intrigued, aroused? Your face shows no emotion, yet your eyes are transfixed. As I slowly feel my cock in a tortuous and sensational way, I fade into an unknown place. The room for me is an evolving labyrinth of images and sensations. Well, for you, what is it for you? The two of us are separated by a barrier of impossibility, yet we are connected in a way that we are forbidden to acknowledge. My space is your space, yet my experience is so foreign and unknown to you, and yours to me. We are together. My pre-cum slowly and soothingly coats my cock with an auditory glisten, and just when I think it's too much, my body releases, embracing the joy and shame, wondering if you want to come near. I began masturbating at a young age, before I knew what masturbation was. When I was in early middle school, or maybe late elementary school, my mom caught me, and it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. The way she talked to me, I knew she was upset, but even more than that, I knew she didn't think I should even have the desire to masturbate. Years later, we had a conversation about boys masturbating, and I realized how much more acceptable it was to her for a boy or a man to masturbate, or to want to have sex at all. Now, I'm so much more comfortable with the desire, but it's strange being stuck in a society where it's just more acceptable for men to desire sex, and women are supposed to. I don't know. I just want it to be the same. It is the same. Usually, I masturbate to porn. My orgasms are hollow, emotionless, utilitarian releases of energy to help me fall asleep. Since my last relationship, I've discovered somewhat of a phenomenon. A memory of a sexual experience I had with her that offers a full body clutch every time I use it to masturbate. I was visiting her in her hometown after we broke up. We were in a park walking along the muddy, trash-strewn banks of the city river. We kissed for the first time in months passionately, and her nose bled all over my face. I took off my underwear and gave it to her to use as a handkerchief. They were blood red as well. We sat on a log once her nose stopped bleeding and began kissing again. I unzipped my jeans and pulled my dick through the hole. She spat in her hands, a mixture of blood and saliva. We both watched as she started caressing the head of my dick. She stood up in front of me, pulled her pants to her knees and her underwear to the side, and sat on me slowly. We fucked in full view of any passers-by for about 5 minutes. We both came intensely in that same moment, her cum pulling him to my lap, and mine inside of her. I use this memory sparingly. I don't think it's healthy for me to keep it so fresh in my mind.